Hello and welcome to Tamarind Gaming and our pilot episode of our Guild Ball match reports. Today we're featuring Ratcatchers and Fishermen. Ratcatchers played by me, Francois, and Fishermen played by my brother Valerian. For the Ratcatchers we have Piper, Squeak, Vet Graves, Bonesaw, Pelage and Scourge. For the Fishermen it's Shark, Tentacles, Fathom, Hag, Vet Siren and Horizon. Valerian kicks off with Shark, just jogging up the pitch and aiming for the barrier just over the halfway line. Kick is successful and he basically drops it exactly where he wants it. Influence for the first turn is as follows: Piper gets 6, Squeak 1, Vet Graves 1, Bonesaw 4, Scourge 0 and Pelage 1. For the fish, Shark gets 6, Tentacles nothing, Fathom 4, Horizon nothing, Vet Siren 2 and Hag 1. So after a bit of deliberation and measuring, I opted to take the Squeak legendary to grab the ball. He then passed it off to Graves and Squeak took a little jog up. So Valerian did a little bit of measuring to work out whether he could get Shark into Vet Graves. Decided he couldn't quite get there straight away, so opted to go into Squeak instead. Charged him, and on the charge he got a Tidal Surge and wrapped to a Momentous Dodge, and used all that to get himself into a position where he could attack Graves. As you can see, we'd already checked to see where he had to be to score the goal, so he's in a perfect position to tackle Graves twice because of close control and then shoot the goal. Took a little bit of time measuring out this, not least because he wanted to make sure he could catch as much of my team in the legendary as possible. So once he dodged in, the first thing he did was declare the legendary to make everyone very slow indeed. First attack into Vet Graves, rolls it off and declares a tackle, which triggers close control, so is ignored. Then goes for another attack into Vet Graves, and this time gets the tackle. Vet Graves has declared a counter-attack. So, after the tackle, Shark only had 1 influence left, so all Vet Graves needed to do was get 1 single result, and he would spoiled the goal run. Unfortunately, as you can see, 1 hit, ignored for armour, counter-attack fails. Shark then kicked the goal, elected not to run the length, and the ball was kicked out in the direction of Scourge. Scourge jogs, collects the ball, and drops it onto Bonesaw. A series of quick activations to follow now. Hag Shadow Likes, uses her free talisman to dodge Fathom forwards, spends influence to dodge Tentacles forwards and takes a little jog. Pelage activates for me, moves over to engage Shark, sprinting because of the legendary. Horizon activates next. All he does is dodge and then jog onto the fast ground to threaten for the next turn. Vet Graves activates, throws an attack into Shark, hits the knockdown, they ain't tough. Siren activates, Shadow Likes, jogs, and then uses Dread Gaze on Scourge to knock him down. Bonesaw then activates, puts up Meditation, passes to Piper who dodges into Shark. Bonesaw then sprints up into the cover. So next up is Tentacles. He just takes a jog forwards, and then we're on to Piper's activation. I spend a little bit of time measuring here to see whether Fathom can get to Bonesaw and score the goal. I decide that with the heroic she probably can, and she has 2-inch melee, so Bonesaw wouldn't be able to counter or stop her. and it's too risky to try and set up for the first activation goal next turn. Piper then throws attacks into Shark. I was slightly surprised to find the Momentous 2 so accessible, so my results were Momentous 2, Momentous 2, Momentous 2 again, Momentous 2 and a Momentous Tackle Push, Momentous 2, Momentous 2 and a Momentous Tackle Push. I then used 2 momentum to clear the knockdown on Scourge and dropped the ball back onto Vet Graves. The end result of all of those attacks is that Shark was left on 4 health, and he is of course knocked down still. After a bit of thinking and measuring, Valerian thinking about whether he could go for the goal again, decided not to and just jogged Fathom up into a convenient bit of cover for next turn. And that's the end of turn 1. So Shark is left on 4 health, and Scourge has taken a couple of points of damage from disease by the end of this turn. Apart from that, everyone else is untouched. We chose our plot cards. Valerian played Sell It to the Crowd. I played Won't Touch the Hair and elected to go first, and I put Poised onto Vet Graves. I then allocated influence, 6 on Piper, 2 on Vet Graves, 2 on Scourge, 3 on Pelage, none on Bonesaw. I did after this realise that I probably should have just put 4 on Vet Graves, used him to kill Shark, and then been able to do something with the ball straight away. For the fish, Shark got 1, Tentacles 1, Fathom 4, Horizon 3, Vet Siren 3, and Hag 1. My first activation was then Pelage, who swung into Shark, scoring Momentous 3. Swung again, scoring Momentous 3 again, gaining me a takeout on Shark, bringing the score to 4-2 to the fish. After takeout, Pelage then jogged around to position herself to try and give Vet Graves a little bit of protection from the lurking Fathom. Speaking of Fathom, Valerian elected to activate her next, and started measuring out where she could get to. First with just the charge, which would be going through Pelage's melee zone, so I had a quick look at the playbook to see about parting blows, and then realised he'd probably be too far away to score the goal if he went that way. So then electing to take the heroic, dodge 4 inches, and then charge into Vet Graves. So Fathom heroic, charged Vet Graves. Vet Graves declared the poised counterattack on the first attack, the charge. Fathom didn't roll particularly well, only managed to get a single tackle, no rep to the second tackle, which then cleared close control. Vet Graves counterattack, 1 damage after bonus time. Fathom then goes for another attack, tackles, has the ball but no momentum to take the shot, so is forced to kick the ball off the edge of the pitch to try and get it back to her team. The end result though is it scatters back over the barrier and ends up near Squeak. Squeak elects not to snap the ball, so I activate Bonesaw. Bonesaw then jogs around with his stamina jog, collects the ball, drops it back onto Piper on his way back round, and leaves himself in a position to go for a reverie goal later in the turn. Hag is next for the fish. She takes a free talisman to dodge Tentacles up a little bit, puts up Decoy, and just shuffles around, not really going anywhere. Scourge activates and charges Vet Siren, moving into cover, and also engaging Tentacles. On the charge, he gets a knockdown, and ends his activation, handing out disease to both Tentacles and Vet Siren. Valerian measures to see whether Horizon can just charge straight away, but elects to go with Vet Siren, who Shadowlikes in, attacks Vet Graves, momentous push dodge to disengage again, goes for a Dread Gaze onto Bonesaw, but misses. Vet Graves then activates and attacks Fathom. Roll's not going well here. Got 1 damage, no momentum, and then Heroic to give Squeak 2 influence. Tentacles activates, misses a blind onto Bonesaw, elects to jog up and engage him, which then spreads disease to Bonesaw as well. Squeak goes, he jogs up to Fathom, attacks, and manages to miss twice. Spectacular failure on the part of both Vet Graves and Squeak there. Horizon's up next. He takes his free dodge and then jogs up to Scourge, makes 3 attacks, scoring a momentous push dodge, followed by a momentous push dodge, followed by yet another momentous push dodge. So the last activation of the turn then is Piper. He uses Haunting Melody on Fathom, who elects to jog to him. She is left within Vet Graves' melee for the gang up. Piper attacks, gets a momentous double push. Second attack gets a momentous single push. Attacks again for another momentous double push, pushing her out of engagement. Piper then drops the ball onto Vet Graves and jogs over to Fathom again. Attacks again for a momentous double push. Momentous dodge, double push. Momentous double push. And then Heroics to push Fathom off the pitch, leaving the score at 4-all at the end of turn 2. What I clearly should have done here was left Fathom right on the edge of the pitch and pushed her off at the start of next turn, and this definitely comes back to bite me. It also would have allowed me to set up for a relatively straightforward Reverie goal, probably with Pelage at the very start of the next turn to go 8-4 up. After the various attacks, and also after disease has been processed, we've got Bonesaw on 11 health, Scourge on 14, Shark on 8, Tentacles on 8, Fathom on 9, Vet Siren on 9, and everyone else on their full health still. So we played our plot cards. I played Keep the Ball Moving, Valerian played Get Back in There, and I elected to go first and put 5 influence on Piper, 1 on Vet Graves, 4 on Bonesaw, 3 on Scourge, none on Pelage. Valerian then allocated 6 to Shark, 1 to Tentacles, 4 to Fathom, none to Horizon, 3 to Vet Siren, and none to Hag. He did a little bit of measuring to see where he could get Shark to, and had a little think, and then I made a horrendous mistake and handed him yet another goal. I activated Graves, Graves passed to Piper, and Piper dodged up. I'm fairly sure we played this wrong. I shouldn't have been able to gain that momentum to dodge anyway, but what I did then was dodge Piper into a place where Fathom could get to him and score the goal, which he then promptly decided to do. Fathom activates. After a little bit of deliberation, he decides to Heroic, charge Piper. On the charge, he gets a tackle double dodge and wraps to 1 damage, giving him the momentum he needs to shoot. Attacks again for 1 damage, and then takes the shot, slotting it away without any difficulty whatsoever. The score is then 8-4 to the Fish on a Fathom goal. All this obviously resulting from my misplay at the end of the last turn. Not only not jailing Fathom, which gave her the opportunity to come on and do this, but also positioning myself badly and leaving the ball on Vet Graves, where I couldn't make any use of it. I kick the ball out after a little bit of thought, and decide that all I can really do now is put it in a corner and try and deny him that 3rd goal. So it goes over just past Squeak, fairly safe for the moment. I activate Pelage, and she takes a little jog up, sticks herself in cover, and passes the turn over. He then goes with Hag, who Shadowlikes, Uses her free talisman to dodge Vet Siren and then jogs around. And again, not going anywhere. Scourge is up next and jogs up to continue his ineffectual flailing against Vet Siren. He attacks, gets a momentous snack break, healing the damage he'd taken from his own disease. Second attack is a knockdown, and the third attack gives him momentous 3, gaining me a couple of points of momentum at least. Knowing he's still got shark to go, and he's more than capable of going in at the end of turn and gaining 6 momentum off 6 influence, probably more if he goes into Scourge, he activates Tentacles, aims a blind at Bonesaw, misses him, and jogs a little bit across, just shifting in place really, staying out of 2 inches of Pelage so he doesn't have to take the damage. At this point I measure out to see where Shark can get to, between the fast ground and the plot card, and we realise that he could have taken that goal with Shark and left Fathom in a much better position to threaten the ball after the kick out. This slightly ruins what was my plan, which was to activate Squeak, drop the ball on Piper, and try and take the Reverie goal with Bonesaw or Pelage. I go with Squeak anyway, and he just jogs, picking up the ball on the way, and goes and hangs out in the corner just to keep it safe for a turn, hopefully, while I figure out what I'm actually going to be doing. Horizon activates for the fish, takes his dodge, and then jogs just to put him in a position to threaten the ball from that side. So next up I go for Bonesaw. After a little bit of measuring, I decide I can't get him the other side of Tentacles with just the stamina jog, so I elect to just jog up to him and then take some attacks to gain some momentum. Unfortunately, he gets a non-momentous dodge on the first attack, but then momentous push dodge on the second attack, momentous push dodge on the third, and following up with a non-momentous dodge on the fourth. This moves Tentacles around a little bit, but doesn't materially affect anyone's position. I was hoping to get Tentacles into a position where he was engaged by Pelage, so she could make attacks without having to move. Unfortunately, this didn't quite work out, and I elected to not jog again with Bonesaw, leaving him in cover. Vet Siren activates next, and she's knocked down, so she takes a Shadow Like at the start of her activation to get herself into melee range of Scourge. She then forfeits her movement to stand up and declares an attack on Scourge, who declares a counter. Vet Siren gets a momentous tackle dodge and then is promptly knocked down on the counter attack. She spends momentum to clear the condition, takes a second attack, also getting a momentous tackle dodge, and then goes for a third attack, which also gets a momentous tackle dodge. You'll notice a slight shift in the recording angle here, as unfortunately I kicked the camera. Hopefully you can still see everything the same. I activated Piper now, who used his legendary, pushing Fathom and Graves, so that Fathom was engaged by him and was also engaged by Vet Graves. He starts making some attacks, gets a momentous double push, misses the second attack, momentous double push on the third, takes a momentous tackle push on the fourth, jogs up, and takes the momentous double push. Once again, this left her within 2 inches of the edge of the board, so Piper could just use his heroic to push her off. Another push off for Fathom, leaving the score at 8-6 to the fish. I considered using Haunting Melody on Horizon, who was the only person in range, but decided it was better not to put him any closer to Squeak and the ball. So just Shark left to activate now in the turn. Valeren's in 2 minds here as to what to do with him. Whether to go and attack Scourge and generate a load of momentum, or to put him into position to chase Squeak next turn. He's got a long threat range, and in the end he just jogs up to Scourge and starts making attacks. So first attack gives him a knockdown. The second attack gives him a Tidal Surge, which he uses on Horizon to push him into a more useful place for next turn. Third attack is a momentous stagger, followed by a momentous push dodge, a momentous push dodge wrapping to the momentous dodge, Last attack gives him a momentous push dodge. He then spends one of those momentum to heal Shark, and that ends the turn. Going into turn 4, health is as follows. Bonesaw has 10 left, Scourge has 16, Shark has 12, Tentacles 7, Fathom 9, Horizon 7, and Vet Siren has 6. So Valerian is up on momentum, and we play our plot cards. I play Midfield General. Valerian plays Dig Deep with the obvious intention of going after Squeak with Horizon, getting the ball back, booting it back to his team. We move to Influence Allocation. Valerian puts 5 on Shark, 1 on Tentacles, 4 on Fathom, 3 on Horizon, 3 on Vet Siren, and none on Hag. I in turn put none on Piper, 4 on Squeak, 4 on Bonesaw, 3 on Scourge, 2 on Pelage. My influence allocation was a little bit unusual here, with none on Piper. Basically what I needed to do was try and stop Fathom scoring, or whoever he gets the ball to, after Horizon's taken off Squeak. Piper's in a bad position for that, so Pelage to try and stop Fathom, Bonesaw because he is the most mobile, and a couple spread around just in case something else happens. There was a little bit of confusion over Valerian's influence, whether he'd taken enough goal influence and enough for the plot card. But once we got that all sorted out, we could get on with the turn. So as expected, Valerian activates Horizon. He dodges across and then charges Squeak. I elected to defensive stance in the hope that he would just fluff his roll. In the event, he got a momentous tackle double dodge and a momentous push dodge. There was some discussion whether he'd be better off taking the unexpected arrival, pushing Squeak off the board. But in the end, he opted for the extra dodge to get him up towards Fathom. He then went and kicked the ball towards Fathom, which was accurate, and then got a absolutely perfect scatter, which put the ball straight onto Fathom. I had initially looked at going after Fathom with Pelage, but due to the obstacle in the way I couldn't quite reach her, so I had to go with Bonesaw. With the additional inch of movement from the game plan card, he could get away from Tentacles with his stamina jog. Tentacles passing blow did nothing, and Bonesaw charged Fathom. On the charge, Bonesaw got a momentous tackle after Fathom death stanced rather than countered. I then decided that I should kick the ball into a safe place, back into his deployment zone, ideally somewhere behind his goal. This is where it all came slightly unstuck. After Bonesaw's sterling work in retrieving the ball, I got very, very greedy on the kick, attempting to put it right in behind his goal rather than just kicking it safely towards the goal, but not the full 8 inches. Bonesaw's kick was accurate, so when the first scatter went off the pitch, it wasn't so bad. Reroll. Basically the same thing happened again, straight off the pitch, and it then scattered from the middle. Handily for Valerian, after the scatter was resolved, it had landed just behind Vet Siren. Bonesaw, out of desperation, took one more attack on Fathom, getting a momentous push dodge, and then it was over to Valerian for the last activation. Siren activates, Shadow likes to pick up the ball, hits Scourge once for a momentous tackle dodge, sprints up to the goal, takes the tap-in shot with bonus time, and scores to win the game for the Fish 12-6. So there we have it. Game ended 12-6 to the Fish. Tactical analysis as such, basically I played really badly and gave Valerian 2 goals. He took his chances, and that was that. Nothing much to it. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video and got something out of it. Do come back and check out more videos in the future.